So we want to welcome you today to these YouTube videos that we're doing. And it came about because I was asked the question by a number of people, so can you give me an example of the kind of situations that people bring? And I am happy to do that. I have to chuckle a little bit to myself because that's somewhat challenging to do. There's such a range of situations that people bring. So that said, my name is Dr. Cara Barker, and I am very, very, very happy to have you here. So let's begin, and let's look at something that might be helpful, sort of a common denominator. And what I'm going to do here, I'm not a PowerPoint person. I'm simply a person in the trenches doing what I call the work, which is helping people come home to who they really are. And they come with a variety of different situations, and I like to use the process of imagery, the pictures that they bring to me, because that is a direct connection to the soul, to the heart and soul of who we are. And some people call it the psyche. The psyche is synonymous with soul. And that actually speaks through imagery, not through words. So the more we can kind of focus in on what the imagery is, the better off we are. So let me start with one. Is the first woman that I want to share her story, a little bit about her story. I'm doing so because it's such a common situation. Now that said, know that the particulars of everybody's story is unique, and that's why I don't believe in giving a cookie-cutter recipe, because you are not a cookie, nor are you like any of the other cookies. You're a unique human being, as am I, and as is Consuelo. So when Consuelo came, she did what we call presented. She presented with the statement that she said, I feel like I need to come home to myself. I feel like I have lost myself in the rest of my life. She was 48 years old. She also was 49 pounds overweight. She told me, she said, you know, Cara, I have gained and lost the same 30 pounds, 35 pounds, probably 11, 12, 13, 14 times over the course of my life, and I am so sick of it. And she said, yeah, it gives me a project to work on. She said, but it's just too much in terms of where I am in my life. So when she said, come home, I thought of, okay, what do we do when we're looking at the whole notion of home, like let's say building a home. So I'm drawing here just a little box like this, and I don't know if you can see this, but we'll slap a roof on it, some kind of thing like that. And when we're building a home, there are corners, obviously, of the home. You've got to get the foundation right. And each of these corners could be considered as a cornerstone. So for her to come back to herself, for her to actually shed this weight that she's been carrying, she's got to be willing to be honest about what's really going on. So this is kind of the who of who she is, and the repercussions of her situation, of not feeling like she's at home with herself. This is what she reported to me. She said, well, first of all, she said, I asked her when she gained the weight, and she said, I gained it after the birth of my twin girls. And then my son was born, and then another son was born, and she said in that period of time I gained the weight, and I know we talk about it as baby weight, but I never took it off. In fact, each pregnancy I gained more and I gained more. I said, well, you know, what was happening during that time? She said, major deprivation in the touch lovemaking department. She said, I stopped experiencing my life as fun. It just felt kind of flat. My husband was working around the clock. He just seemed more interested in being gone than being home. She said, I started feeling stuck. I started feeling lonely. And she said it just felt like drudgery. My life was starting to feel like drudgery, and I was losing this thread to myself. Now, when she said thread, there's something in mythology called The Red Thread, and through different enduring stories, this red thread connects our growth and developmental stages. Just drop that. We'll try something else. That's how life is. You know, if we think we're going in one direction, something else happens, how can we respond to it? So she had that kind of experience. She would think she was going in one direction, and then life would serve up something else. She thought when she had her twins, everything was going to be fine, but something new came into being, as happens with new life. So this red thread, and she said she lost her red thread, she was saying she was losing her contact with her most essential self. So, what do you do with that? I mean, there are a lot of repercussions, and maybe you have experienced this yourself, where you have periods where you have something in mind that you want. Let's say it's out here, that's your goal, and you set out down here, and you feel like you're getting close to reaching the goal, and then something happens, like a life change event of some sort, something unexpected, and boom, down to the bottom of the well again, kind of like Sisyphus. You're pushing something, have this idea, start striving, get to the top of it crests like a wave, and then something happens in life, and boom, you're back down the bottom. And now I want you to notice that these cycles get bigger and bigger and bigger. In other words, what we've got is we've got an issue down here to solve, and then we have an opportunity to solve it, and we go so far developmentally, and then it feels like we're back at the bottom, but each time actually we're getting a little bit further. And the way life works is it's always serving up new events to get it together. So when this happened for Consuelo, this whole thing about weight, actually it was connected to something that's been going on for her for a long time, long before she had her twins and gained the weight. But what she was feeling was this sort of sense of heaviness. Now, I bet you've had that experience, or you know somebody else who's had that experience. What are you supposed to do when that happens? So this gets to the process itself, and this is why it's difficult to talk about. Everybody is so different. But in her particular case, the process involved her addressing the fact she was trained as a social worker. She worked for a little bit after she had her kids, but then the whole idea of social work wasn't really speaking to her. What was she going to do? And so she had to pay attention to what her heart was asking from her, and that's when she brought in a dream. And she brought in a dream, and I ask people to keep track of their dreams. Even when we think we don't dream, the fact is we have about 6 or 7 dreams a night. The whole thing, though, is we have to set up our little station by our bed so that we can snag the dream, because in the first 30 seconds after you wake up it's gone. But the dream is important because it gives a sacred text, a document from your soul, from the heart of who you are. And it's actually, I'm a Jungian, and so we believe that the dream is not trying to trick us. Actually, it's giving us the closest clue that it can about maybe doing some little tweaking in the direction of our life. And in her case, she dreamt about a boat. And she dreamt about a boat, and the boat was out in the middle of the sea, and there was some kind of she was in the boat, there was some sort of stuckness, there was something that she was wanting to get. And she didn't know what it was, but she knew that if she got it, she would feel more nourished. So I said to her, well, do you think you were fishing? You were out in the middle of the boat, or were you going for pearls, or what might it have been? And she remembered a story. Now, I love this story, and there's a woman in Oakland, California by the name of Andriette Earle, who I adore. And Andriette talks about this boat, and you may have heard of it, and it's a parable where Jesus is, after he's been crucified, he is out on the shore, and the fishermen his boys, have gone out there to fish because they didn't know what to do next. You know, their job description was over as they knew it. So they went out there, and